I had over 60 on that bus. Yeah, I know it. Yeah. And I got mountain there. I was yeah, yeah. Of course, it was still wrong.
All right, here is a handout. And as I've told you all before, this is, I don't mean to talk down to anyone, but this is my, this is what I taught my sixth grade social studies class, and what I've done with you all, I've gone backwards. I started out with the history, but with them, with the fifth and sixth grade group, I would start out with the day to teach them government and so forth, and that's what we're going to do today. Tonight, we're going to look at modern day Estill County, and then if we want to talk some about the past, we are more than welcome to do that. But I used an outline form, which is, to some people, is archaic, but it works. What they use for me, and look what I've done. You know,
you just gotten old.
I know some are a little older than me now. It is an odd feeling to be in a meeting and look around and you be the oldest one in there. You know, I do that a lot now, especially when I'm meeting with the furnace, and I felt today I went to the cottage furnace today, and I've been to the Fitchburg furnace. This is my third forestry service people. So I am getting old that come in to take the place where people are retiring this is the third group that I've had. One of them is from Virginia and one was from Pennsylvania. And it's just like, it's almost like being back in the sixth grade again. Two ladies, and I had a good day with them. Like I said, we went to Fitchburg and then wound up at the cottage furnace, and everyone that comes in here, they brag, you know, about how beautiful this country is. And I have to agree with them. There's my son, he made it. And Fred, I want to talk to you about your rock, because they've had anything came and they're leaning that it may be a root. Okay. But I'm gonna let another geologist look at it. I've had more people, it looks like a tusk, but it isn't. And I have my old stats, some of my old stats here that the last time that I taught this, I think was like 98. So we'll do a little bit of comparison. And with this outline form, what I would do Estill County first. But I would use this outline with my students. You can use this for a town, for a county, for a state, for a country. And this was before we had so much technology, and I would take a page out of the almanac that gave the gross domestic product and everything. And I would start out with Estill County, and then we would do Kentucky, and then the United States. And I had a relative that was in the service, was in special forces, and we'd have to stay a little bit behind him and he couldn't let us know where he was at all times. We would track him, and he would go to a country. He would go to Afghanistan or Pakistan. That was his area of operations. And he would send back money and just little pamphlets and so forth. And then we would take this outline and go to the country, go to Afghanistan. And it's just a neat, unique thing to do. So and this is going to be elementary for you in a sense. So location, size, and topography. If you were to tell, and I would go with them, I would go as far as what galaxy are you in? You know, I mean, again, you're with what galaxy we are. We're in the Milky Way. What planet do we live on? We live on Earth. We live in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. Good. We're making A's so far. What state? You know, and then we would zero it down. When we live in Estill County, Kentucky, if you were to tell somebody describe the location of Estill County, Kentucky, how would you describe it?
Where the bluegrass kisses.
Where the bluegrass kisses the mountains, comes, that rolls off and it's rolled off for it. But we don't live in the mountains. People say we do, but we're not. What are we in? We're in the foothills, the knobs. And we do have some flat ground. I mean, you go to western Kentucky and it's, and we're in the physiogeographic region is in the east central Kentucky. And I had a guy the other day, was wanting our rock club. We wanted to change the name of the rock club. We're not in southeast Kentucky. But there was a coal company out here that we all used to work for, and it was called Southeast Coal. So, but we're in southeastern Kentucky. How big are we? What's our size? What's our area? And we're not shrinking, but when I started teaching this, we were right at 258 square miles. That was the first measurement. And now we're not. What's happened? We're not shrinking. What's getting better? Our satellites, our technology. Our latest measurement were 253 square miles. That just came off this, well, we were up there, I don't know where anyone's in here with me, we were up there rock cut one day, this plane flies over, and I thought, I hope people don't start jumping out of this. Because you can see the letters on the plane, and that's what they were doing, they were flying the grid. You all probably saw them up on the mountain, because we were down at the foot of Drip Rock. 253 square miles. What about our topography? How would we describe it? Rounded foothills located in the east and south at 1,000 to 800 foot elevation. The lowlands in the west and the northern section is 500 to 1,000 feet in elevation. Coastline borderline. Well, we don't have a coastline. What borders us? Always start with the north. What borders us on the north? We have two counties on the north. Clark and Powell. What about the south? Jackson's to the south, the east. Hey, you're learning. Victor's my new neighbor. What's to the east? Lee. Lee's to the east, and then Owsley. And what's to our west? Madison County. Bodies of water. The two rivers. Red and the Kentucky. And the Kentucky bisects us. Now, up where Jurgen and Robert live, I take people up sometimes up there. And if you're down on the river, when you come around that bend, you cross over that set of electric lines. And I have people want to argue with me that those aren't the same set of electric lines. But you go around that bend, well, you can go up on top of your house and you're looking down on Crazy Leonard and the river rat and them, and then you're looking the other way. And that's a long way if you go by the road. So, you know, but when you come around that bend, it's the peak that sticks out on their east side. It's old landing. But when you go around that, there's big super power lines that go across through there. And I said, now we're getting ready for one of these lines, and we're going to go around this bend, and we're going to go back under them. And it's just hard to for them to get a concept. Kentucky River bisects our county. The Red River is our northern border. What about lakes? Victor has a lake behind his house.
Cave Run, Cumberland.
Not in Estill County.
Oh, and that's
Estill County. We have two lakes in Estill County. You can look on the map.
Housing Ford.
That's in Estill County. You're losing ground here. Who said Pitts? Pitts Lake, right behind your house. You can see it off the points. It was built in the early 30s. Why would you put a lake back up in that hollow?
Brown.
Why it is to dilute the brine. And I learned that a hard lesson one day because we used to walk to Pitts Lake. And we were walking up through there one day, it was hot and I was thirsty, and there was a big old stream of water coming out of an old rusty pipe. I went over and cut my hands and got a big drink. It was straight salt water. I like to choke to death. But that's why Pitts Lake is there. I'll tell you something else a lot of people don't know. There's a house in the bottom of that lake. It's been an outbuilding. I've been in them. Underwater.
What's the other leg? What's the other one?
It was just a little outbuilding. Well, there's actually
The
a
other
big
leg?
one, a little one, and then a real little one over to the side. But it was just an outbuilding, like a small barn. But there was an old house there that they just let the lake come up.
Other lake would be Cressy.
The other lake is Cressy, but now they're both private, and Cressy's out on the other end of town. There's actually two lakes out there, one with Big Cressy and Little Cressy.
Well, I joined my dad's property.
Yep. We used to fish out there when I was a kid, quite some time ago. Here's my. Wow, it's fell out of my head. All right, what about the creeks? Station Camp,
We have another river too.
Horns River, but it ain't a river. It's just a name that somebody stuck on the screen.
You know where the horn came from?
Off the cow's head.
No. There used, David Dick, who is Sam Dick's father, was a television, he wrote a book, The Rivers of
Yeah.
Kentucky. And he came up and asked me to take him up the Orange River. He didn't know how to get there. And we did some research on it, and there's a tree called a hornbeam tree. And, there was a grove of hornbeam trees up in that hollow. And, they named the river Orange River.
Horns River from the tree.
Yeah.
It's a good creek. I hunted. It has some agates in it. Yeah, Station Camp. What's another one? We have a lot of creeks. Well, if we start we have Station Camp here, up toward the Legion, you have Cow Creek, Miller's Creek. You have Drowning Creek that's part of our border with Madison. You have Ross Creek, Buck Creek,
Crooked Creek.
Crooked Creek,
You got a Woodard Creek over this way, and you got a Woodard Creek.
you've got a Woodward's Creek on both ends of the county.
Big Doe, Little Doe.
Big Doe, Little Doe. You're missing, we got two. One of them, up the creek. One of them right past the high school. We go over the bridge, there's a railroad crossing.
Callaway.
Callaway's Crossing, Callaway's Creek, and there's, well, in Middle Fork, there's Station Camp Creek,
White Oak.
White Oak,
Nolan's Creek. Nolan's Creek.
Nolan's Creek, that was one, Red Lick,
Queen Creek.
Locust Branch.
Locust Branch, Twin, yes, but Twin Creek. And people don't realize this, but as far as the state of Kentucky goes, we have, Alaska is the only state that has more miles of running water. And I didn't believe that the first time I heard it, but I asked Siri. Muddy Creek, not in, Buck Creek, Clear Creek. And at one time, I found there was a White Creek. All right, we did the bodies of water, our economy. Looking on here, last time I did this, 25 years ago, what would have been our main economic? The Southeast Coast got through the coal business, now they're both gone. Did you read about it on the news when they pulled out? How people felt sorry for us and didn't know what we were gonna do? I never did hear that story. You hear it at other places.
Tobacco too.
So, well, that's under agriculture.
Oh, okay.
Old field.
Oil fields,
Carhartts.
Carhartt, that's under manufacturing, but right now, if you go to a county, and you look it up, and their biggest employer, this is a predictor, if their biggest employer is the school board, that tells you something about the economy. I'm not saying it's poor, I'm not saying it's bad, But anytime that your Board of Education is your leading employer, that's just gonna let you know right off the bat, there is an industry or manufacturing there. And,
The oil fields at one time.
at one time, and they will surprise you what they're putting back into here now. What would be next? Right now, for us, our biggest employer is the Estill County Board of Education. What would be second? Harharts and the courthouse, very. Courthouse employs more people than you realize.
What about lumber or wood?
The timber business, it comes in there, about fourth right now. But again, we'll touch on that, in natural resources. But right now, our biggest, more people do service jobs here in Estill County, but which that's just a big, that's a big lump sum. Even a teacher's job comes under the service industry.
Our hospital.
Our hospital, but again, that's the service industry in the sense. Manufacturing, we only have one manufacturer, well, no, we got two. Have two, when you're waiting to say God. What's our leading manufacturing company here? Carhart's, what's gonna be second? Up on Cow Creek, it's the wood pallets. What about mining? We have no coal mines. We do have a seam of coal in Estill County, but it doesn't have the value to burn. It's up on Tipton Ridge. But we do have a mine here, but it isn't called a mine. The rock quarry. And they're not crushing rock up there anymore. And again, our economy, the fourth biggest thing would just be trade, would be your storage. Agriculture on here, 25 years ago, tobacco was at the top of the list, and it's gone now. So what would be second in agriculture, do you think?
Probably corn and soybeans.
Beef cattle.
Corn and soybeans. This year, probably, what do you say, Jason? What are you planting this year?
Well, it looked like a lot of it.
Well, it did, and I know your father-in-law earlier in the year, last year, he was sweating because he spent $14,000 on fertilizer and it hadn't rained in about 4 days.
Yeah,
And then it rained because he planted corn.
I would say corn and soybeans had it not been for the flood.
Probably, but I know a lot of people up on the river, the Tribble guy that plants those bottoms. He said that he couldn't take a chance on the fertilizer. So he's growing soybeans 3 years in a row, and you never see him do that. And the flood, well, last year, I mean, he had soybeans that tall, of course, the river came in and took them. Soybeans and corn, it kind of flip flops. Livestock was in there, and we grow a lot of hay in Estill County. Income from farming in Estill County, this is old. It brings in about $6 million a year now. If you take all the farms in Estill County and combine them. Natural resources. What's our most valuable natural resource? It's second. Something we all have to have.
Oh, water.
Water. Water is Estill County's most valuable resource. Timber is second. What do you think number 3 is? We've talked about it. It boomed here in the 30s. Oil is back. I talked to the guy at Bobby. What's his last name? Robert. Yeah. UAE. Oil has to be at $54 a barrel for them to break even. So right now they're making money. People love this climate change, so to speak. Number 5, fertile soil. We have some of the most fertile soil in the world. And I know this river gets up, and it took crops last year, but what did it leave?
Absolutely.
It leaves I mean, I know, I've got a place up there, and I'm tired of shoveling too, but it's just phenomenal what it leaves in the rich soil, in the seeds. I spent a lot of money to clear the grass and clear everything off of a place about 5 times as big as this room. We had it gravelled down, it was slick and it was nice. And that one right now got a pretty standard closure. I don't know what it is, but when that river gets up and when it goes back down, 90% of what grows is clover. So I have a nice stand of clover now. Our climate, everyone knows what type of, what are the 3 types of climate?
Rain, snow.
You have a polar, that's weather. You have a polar climate, tropical climate, and a temperate climate. And again, I know you're not 5th graders, but this is the way I do it. What do we have? A temperate climate. What's our average temperature? You think? About 56. What about rainfall? You think this, of course, we got, what, 4 years ago, it rained 72 inches. I mean, it literally did. Our average rainfall in Kentucky now is about 48 inches a year. And when you stack that up, you know, but that's what brought people here. That's what brought our pioneers here, was the water and the rich soil. The people in their culture, this is where you sometimes have to be careful. But I have uploaded and downloaded the new census. How many people do we have, you think, in Estill County?
13,000.
How many?
13,000.
A little more.
16.
Nope.
14.
14,157 according to the last census. How many people now? And here is what draws people to Estill County, not just the good land. How many people a square mile do we have? Up where you live, Robert, that's probably the truth. That's all we want sometimes. We have 55.9, 56 people a square mile. When you think about this, look at what's New York City. New York City isn't a whole lot bigger than Estill County. You can take Estill County and just about a third of Lee County, and you have New York City, and there's 10 million people living there. How many people are in Tampa? Do you know? A whole lot, aren't they? The reason you came up here was.
Yes, sir.
But we're glad to have you. Let's see. Our ethnic background. So what are we?
Anglo-Saxon.
We are very, very much so. We are 98% Anglo. And I will say this. Sometimes when I would be a truant officer, I would ask when some of these people would show up, especially the guy that had the spider web tattooed on his head. I wanted to know how he found her. And I think he was a little hard right leaning. He got on the internet and looked up our stats and saw that we were 99% Anglo. That's what brought him here. He didn't stay long. The average drive to work from Estill County, a little over half hour, 34.5 minutes. And I messed up the other day and scheduled a doctor's appointment in Lexington at 8 o'clock. What I was thinking, you know, it's been a long time since I've driven to Lexington early in the morning. And I mean, you just get in line now. But I'll have to say, in less than an hour, we were in Lexington. It moved that morning. You know, but now I know to do a 9 o'clock, or I can leave later. And if you do like if it's on this end of Lexington, I've made doctor's appointments in 45 minutes over there that bluegrass orthopedics and so forth. Population by household. And it's 55% are married. There are 2.5 persons per household. How many households do you think we have in Estill County? This census really breaks it down for you. There's 5,598 households in Estill County. Kentucky has 1,748,475 households. The United States of America has 124 million households. And you see how if you're giving this in a social studies class, it gives them a perspective. And I'll tell you one reason I used to do this is to try to get them to take pride in where you're from. We get beat up a lot. We leave, how many times have we said thank God for Mississippi, in our life? And again, I say, there isn't going to be a factory going to come in here and build a big factory, get everyone a job. We're going to have to take our resources and go with them. What about income? Population, we've done. What do you think our per capita income in Estill County is? Per person? Like 20,000. That kind of surprised me, but that's low. I didn't realize how low that was. That's still below poverty. It's below the poverty line, 25,000. But our household, our average, and this is where with children, I would teach mean, median, and mode. The middle, the average, and whatever pops up the most. The median household income is 36,000. But 1/4 of it, 25%, are below the poverty level. It's like our schools. Everyone eats lunch for free here now. No kid in our school system pays to eat at school. And every kid in Estill County has a Chromebook. They have their own computer. And you can thank, our educators and so forth. What about our age? Our seniors and so forth. It says here we're about 1.5 times the poverty rate in Kentucky and about double the rate of the United States. We have a lot of seniors here in Estill County. Let's see. Housing. Is housing a problem in Estill County, you think?
Yeah.
It is. Standard housing is. We have 6,832 housing units. 82% are occupied. And this surprised me. 71% of our people who live in Estill County own their own home. That was a big shock. But most of them are single units. The average value is $83,000. Here's something that makes me feel somewhat better. When I did this, and we're getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit, but we do what we want to do. Our education. The last time I did this, only 51% of our people had a high school diploma, and now that's up to 74%. And 10.6% of our people in Estill County have a bachelor's degree. Of course, our language is English spoken at home for the most part. And we do have our Hispanic people who speak Hispanics that come up some in Estill County. What about veterans? I found this interesting. The old saying used to be, if you want a soldier, go to Kentucky. If you want a politician, go to Tennessee. And Kentucky is known for pouring out not just soldiers, but good soldiers. We're second only probably to Texas, and look in special ops and guys that go on to SEALs and Green Berets and so forth. Texas is high, and I dare say that we're right behind it, and we're not a fraction of their size. 6.1% of our population now. But back in World War II, this would have been probably 35% or more. You know, it's just, we have 675 total veterans, 41 female veterans in Estill County. All right. Are we having fun?
Yes.
You sure? Employment, we said services, Board of Education, the courthouse, earth population. What about urban? How many people are in urban now?
2,000,
How many?
2,000.
Little over 2,000. About 2,600 now. Ravenna, under 1,000, about 885. Employment, we said services, Board of Education, manufacturing would be Carhartt, trade. We used to have CSX. Logging has jumped way. It hasn't outpaced farming, but we still have a lot of timber. And with the equipment that they're making now to go up on some of these hillsides, you know, they're going places down and cutting logs. You know, we were out there too, to where no one ever went before. Our language is English, major cities, urban and Ravenna. What about tourism? We're growing now. We're growing our tourism. And Francie knows, we said, we're gonna do this weekend on the water again. We've got several parks here, and this is what we're gonna have to bring people in here for our rivers. The Daniel Boone National Forest, I forget how many acres it takes up, which is hiking, and we'll start doing hikes again here next month with the Estill Action Group. I'm gonna try to get the ROTC guys to help us out some, but we're gonna have to, in a sense, reinvent ourselves again. They're not gonna build a factory. If we can get this railroad venue up and running over here, I think that may be our ace in the hole. Transportation, let's talk about highways. What's our major highway? 52, you all know, evens run east and west, odds run north and south. A lot of people don't know that. And I used to, of course, it wasn't hard to blow some of them mind. Tell their kids where they live, but I had the flip chart from the ambulance service, so I could cheat. You know, but if you tell them, like my address is 2520 Wiseman Town Road, what does that mean? I'm on the right-hand side of the road. Why? Because it ends in an even. I live 2.252 miles out Wiseman Town Road. And they say, how do you know that? Well, that's so the ambulance can find you if you choke. You know, that's why that they want your addresses up on all of your doorways and so forth. They are both AAA rated. What's other than 52 and 89? What do you think is the other highway that's used the most?
82.
82. I saw a picture of it the other day. It was a dirt path. You know, literally. How many miles of highways do we have in Estill County, do you think? That the county takes care of? You have a county road department, you have a state road department. How many state maintained roads do you think we have? How many miles? And there's 15 of these guys, and one of them's a mechanic, so and one has to stay in the office by the computer. So you take 2 out of 15, you have 13 men, and they do a good job. I know people, we make jokes about state workers, but if you go up there, and I know where they were last Tuesday, where we didn't get to have this. Because I went up there to talk to them, well, actually that day. I said, "What are y'all doing?" They said, "We're getting ready to go home and take a nap and come back." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because they called from Frankfurt and said, that's what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna salt roads and state maintained miles, we have 320.68 miles. How many bridges you think we have? You think of the creeks that we just crossed. And people don't give this any thought whatsoever. No, not quite. They have 34 bridges that the state maintains. They, as I said, 15 employees. Highway District 10. In 2021, how many wrecks did we have in Estill County? You think? I mean, this information, it blew my mind. 256 crashes in Estill County. 5 involving motorcycles. What about deer? 13. And if we're not careful in Pennsylvania, like I hit a deer, it's been a few years ago out on Richmond Road. And I went to Walmart and asked this lady, I said, "Do you have the deer whistles?" You know, she said, "No, we don't get them till hunting season." And I said, "Well, lady, I ain't want to call them up. If I want dead laying over here on the side of the road, I want them whistles to put on the front of your car and run them off."
How many deer was hit 25 years ago?
Oh, none. There wasn't none. How many, and this is interesting in a sense, how many commercial vehicles are in Estill County? I mean, you think when you go down there and license, is it a passenger? Is it, we have 378 commercial vehicles. Non-commercial. That kind of surprised me at 11,000, almost 12,000 registered vehicles that come through the clerk's office. What about official?
That's almost one per person.
I know, but when we grew up, we only had one car.
Does that include the ones that are just sitting on the side of the road?
No, these are licensed. These ain't the ones up on crate. No, these ain't the fight chickens.
Before they keep their trash in.
Yeah.
The flower.
How many registered official vehicles do we have? State. This kind of surprising, 385, I'm thinking. But when you take all the trucks at the road department, all they have, they're all registered with the state.
Who has the biggest pile of used tires in the county?
Yeah.
The state.
Yeah, they do. Something else I wanted. And now county. How many miles of county maintained roads do you think we have? And this surprised me. And there's only 9 of these guys. 274 miles of blacktop and 60 to 80 miles of gravel road. And 9 of those guys. Education. What's your dropout rate?
From roads,
Huh?
before you get away from roads, when, Richard back there and I were growing up, Urban was a thriving little town. A lot of,
I'm with you.
and, there were a lot of business and a lot of good economy, here in the county. But when they put the good roads in from here to Richmond and even over to Clay City and so forth, people started going out of town to buy their goods. And I contend that that's why urban isn't thriving right now, because it's too easy to go to Walmart and Kroger and all of those places and shop somewhere else.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's like I said, look at the 11, that's almost one per person, but you're thinking of people that aren't even old enough to drive. I don't know of many households nowadays that don't have.
Well, that's not even taking into account Amazon. You don't have to leave home. to get everything.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you think how we've changed. I mean, probably when you came in here, you were the country. I mean, you were. What year did you come here? I remember.
98.
Yeah. I mean, that was,
But there's more people on the road than there are now. You know, there's the school bus actually came on the road back then.
yes.
It hasn't been years.
Yeah, there's no kids that live out in there now.
The world's got a lot smaller.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
we're drinking.
I mean, one room schoolhouses, how many of them were?
Hey, I've told this story. We were supposed to have met, I may have been, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, wasn't by the week wrong. We were supposed to went to Pearlie Wallen's house. And my mother was supposed to be in there with Ruth. And a lot of y'all know who I'm talking about. Well, we got up there and no one was home. And we went in the house and Robert, one of the older ones with that, picked the phone up and told the operator, I want to speak to Ruth at Bobby's house. And she dialed the number. She knew who he was calling. That's Mayberry. You know, and that was about 6 years. I was in the first grade, 62. You know, you literally went in and we had party lines and, you know.
We didn't lock our doors.
Didn't lock our doors, left the keys in the car. Education, what about our graduation rate at the high school?
That's 60-something percent.
No,
95.
what would you say
95.
it is? It is about, and our attendance rate is about 95, and the dropout rate is under 3%. You know, so and we've come a long way, and now over about 80% of those people go to college. And I'm living proof. I would always tell my kids, I'm living proof that anybody can get a college degree. You know, I remember going to the old library one night and listening to a talk about Jesse Stewart, who was a famous Kentucky author that we've all probably read his books. And this statement that this man made is just stuck with me. He said, used to, Jesse Stewart could not get in college because he was poor. He didn't have the money to go to college. Well, he wound up going to Lincoln Memorial University down in Harrogate, Tennessee. Some wealthy people got together, scraped the money together, and enrolled him in that college, or he would have never been a college graduate. But this gentleman that was giving this talk on Jesse Stewart, he said, used to, you had to have 2 things to go to college. You had to have intelligence and money. And today you don't have to have either one. And well, Fred, you talked, and, you know, I have a degree and I'm proud of it. You know, I put myself through college, but you don't. You know, there was one fussing the other day up on TV raising hell about having to work at a Starbucks with a college degree. And I said, what's your degree in? They said, creative writing. Hello. Look at the want ads. Look at the job applications. How many, and then I talk to kids that are very dear to me and I say, what, you're going to college? Yeah. What are you majoring in? History? Are you getting a teaching certificate with that? Oh, no. So you're studying history, right? What are you going to do with that when you get out? Work at Starbucks or drive for Amazon. I mean, you know, and thank God that we've got this area technology center out there because we need mechanics and plumbers and electricians. College isn't, you know, and then they want to punish the school because Quasimodo can't ring his bell. You know, it's, you know, I went probably far enough there.
There's another piece of education that you might be interested in getting. Not many people know this, but before Berea College, was formed, they came in looking for a place to put Berea College, and they, came to my great-great-grandfather wanting to buy land up on D Ridge, and to build Berea College. That was their first choice. And something I'm not proud of, but he wouldn't sell it to them because they were gonna educate black.
Let minorities in.
Yeah,
Think what P Ridge would be like with Berea College up on top of it.
yeah. Well, Berea, Pea Ridge, was pretty different then.
Look good.
Yeah.
Education, I said, do you know how many one-room schools were here once?
76 at one time.
76 at one time.
And if any of you ever want to go to the one-room school that came from Estill County, I still have a key to it. And be glad to take you sometime over there and let you go through
Where is that?
It's on Eastern's
it.
campus.
Eastern campus.
We go over and take a field trip, go over there sometime.
You pass the road every time you go home, up there where that old school.
It's back by the criminal justice.
Yeah.
It sits back in there.
Yeah.
Arts and crafts. Well, we now have an arts council. So crafts are a big part for everything from the agate to Mary Reed's, what tell us, Francine, about the arts. There, she's sitting here.
Yeah, well, Mary has been part of the Kentucky, Arts and Crafts through the state of Kentucky, through the Kentucky Arts Council. And she teaches a lot of classes and is a consultant. And of course, we have the Estill Arts Council. And a lot of our members are supporters of the arts. And of course, right here, Judy, does wonderful work and participated in the Yuletide event. And the Arts Council will have a visit the Mountain Urchin Festival.
And y'all have the arts every December. You have
The
the
Yuletide. event.
Yuletide event,
We have a quilt guild.
a quilt guild. So the arts, and as I said, we talked about tourism. Now there's a tourism tax that's actually being collected that goes to, we have a tourism committee here, and they don't get much. But you go to Powell County, Clay City, but what is it, like 3% of all your restaurants? And you look, but, you know, we would probably kept Natural Bridge if we knew what it was gonna be when we made Powell County. We cut it out and kept it. But they have the interstate, they have Mountain Parkway, and the Red River Gorge, and Natural Bridge. You know, that's just, it is. And if they build what they're talking about building over there, you know. Well, but why are they putting this big highway out of Allen County? And I don't begrudge the people. I mean, it's sure they don't no more need to leave.
There,
But
is there any natural arts in Estill County?
any natural, yeah, nah,
Okay.
but he said an arch, you may, but no, nothing like what happened over there during, that area got pushed up higher during the plate tectonics and pushed all that sandstone up out of the ocean. It just, you know, it's like going out west. That's the only thing that saved that. We have a couple of little ridges up on Cobb Hill that have the towering the small towers of sandstone and the shelters, but very few arches.
They'll have little windows in them where you can see.
You can see through them, but nothing like at Slade and so forth. What about our religion? We're diehard Protestants, but we do have a Catholic church. We do have a Catholic community in here, up in Ravenna. My good friend we used to go up and sit and wait for him to get out of catechism every Thursday. So, and we have a few Muslims in Estill County, you know, and it's something I always taught my kids, my students and my son, you know, you do not have the right to ridicule someone over their religion. It doesn't make any difference. You have a right to worship that chair if you want to. But if that's what you want to do, that's you. And you're going about your business. Recreation. What about parks? We have several. We have the Choo Choo Park. Used to we had the Kiwanis Park.
We still do.
We still do. It's up in Ravenna. But now you have a park at Wiseman. What do we call that park out there?
Kentucky River.
Kentucky River Park, and it's growing in leaps and bounds. And, you know, people are utilizing, we have a park now over to the electric. You know, there's a nice portage over there. One of them is down below, the lot, to put kayaks and so forth in. Yeah, and we have the Daniel Boone National Forest, you have your rivers and streams. Festivals, we have the Mushroom Festival. We have the Agate Show, what else do we have?
Railroad Festival.
The Railroad Festival,
Old time days.
Old Time Days. Pittsburgh Furnace, Cottage Furnace. What about our government? Our county government, and this was an aspect that some of the students. We live in a democratic republic, whether we live in Estill County or Kentucky or the United States. But if you look, it says the Republic of China. And it also says underneath China, an atheist communist nation. And my students would say, Mr. Johnson, how do they have a republic? Well, they have an election. They just don't get to pick their candidates. If you look, China has an election and they give the results just like we do. But they don't have a primary and then a general. The government runs who they want to run, and it's a pretend democracy. It is not. So who runs our county government? What do we have?
The court.
Well, we have a court, but now that's more legal or whatever. We have who's in charge of our county basically? County judge executive. What does he have that? It's a fiscal court. He has 3 magistrates. Then you have your commissioner. I'm a water commissioner. But if this government is run like it's supposed to be, it has checks and balances to where you shouldn't have much to air. What about the city of Irving? Who runs it?
Mayor.
Have a mayor and what? 6 council members. How many precincts, voting precincts do we have in Estill County? 15. I can't name them. But like I said, in the days when I taught this, I would have a map of Estill County that would have the precincts outlined. You know, the kids could look, see which precinct they live in. We could even have mock elections. Like I said, Donnie Watson is our judge executive. 3 managers, city, the mayor, and then Ravenna is the same one. We're about the end of the road. We're at the history, and we've already done that, and it's about 5 till. Thank you all for coming. I will get with Miss Lisa, and we'll pick another topic. Someone's even sent in and asked about the War of 1812, and I didn't realize it. We didn't become a county until 1808. But we had a lot of people that went and fought in the War of 1812, not just from Kentucky, but from Estill County. It shocked me because I found a timeline. So I'm going to go to the library and I will research, because the War of 1812 was the last time the White House got trashed until January the 6th of last year. Basically, it was. It truly was. They burned it down. They burnt the White House down in 1812. But the War of 1812 was where Tecumseh got killed. And that was up in Monroe, Michigan. And what people don't know he got killed. Have y'all ever heard of William, the William Whitley? That's down in Boyle County. There's a house down there, the William Whitley House, and I'm past 65. He was 65 years old when the War of 1812 broke out, and they summoned him to duty. And he got on a horse and rode to Michigan and led him at 65 years of age. I mean, you're talking tough. He got killed. But one reason I wanted to bring him up is he hated the British. If you go down to Lincoln County and go to the William Whitley house, it's a delightful day trip, and you can do it easy. The walls in his house, he did double thick wall, so they can, and he's got hiding places in the house where you take the children when the Indians were still raiding. But his horse, he hated the British so bad, he put a racetrack out there and ran them counterclockwise. And we still do that in the United States. But if you go to a horse race in Britain, they run clockwise. He said he wouldn't do it because that's the way they did it in England. He run his horses off the track. But Fred, I'm gonna hang on to that rock, and a piece broke off of it, a small piece. It had a brachiopod inside of it, a little tiny. But some of them now are leaning that this may be a root from an ancient, it's a cast, whatever it is. But I'm gonna take it and let one more geologist, and they're gonna give us a report back on it, but it's made out of the chert, it's a high silica, almost a flint. So whatever, and did someone want to see this little rock that I had my wife go back and get? But I've enjoyed this. We've done this for what, 4 weeks, and we'll get together and. Yes, sir.
Francine and I were in a meeting this afternoon, and there's a few of us that concerned about the beauty. We talk about Kentucky and Estill County in particular having such beautiful landscape, and you know, it's one of the most beautiful spots on the earth. But we're the ones that don't appreciate it. The people that live here, we throw our trash out in the yard, we pile things up along the highways and so forth, and just really would like for everybody to be conscious of what they see. And I remember Clarence Nolan one time when he was a legislator said that he brought the cabinet for economic development up here just to see if they could find ways to entice business and industry to come to Estill County. And he said they came and looked the county over and said they wouldn't encourage anybody to come because our roads leading into urban from all different directions were so trashy that he wouldn't recommend anybody to come up and look.
That was a long time ago, and I think we've made a little bit of improvement.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's.
Well, without zoning or nuisance laws, it'll never change.
If one was what?
Without zoning or nuisance laws.
Well,
Yeah.
we have people that are dead set against zoning, and you know, that's, you know, what is it? The saying, one man jumps, another man's crazy.
Yeah.
But if enough of us show concern, maybe some of that there.
I agree with you.
It'll happen, but
Last, we before last,
Was that their
fall
fault
under about the beautiful Kentucky, you know, and how beautiful Kentucky is, and I forgot the term you used, but I thought of Estill County. There's not I've been where Jurgen lives over in Germany, and I've been through Europe and here and all over the country. There isn't any place any more beautiful.
I agree.
Estill County.
Yes, sir, Victor.
No, just see like former farmer is the one that follows up. We talked about one time about code enforcement, but there is no code enforcement.
There is no code enforcement.
So
We don't need a code enforcement because there's no code.
I think that the people are voting against.
I mean, this gentleman clearly I've been here a year, and when I first came, I did see the trash and I did see, but I've seen a difference, I've seen a slight difference. You know, when I go up the mountain, I see a bunch of, you know, graveyard cars and empty campers by our side,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I feel like just going up in the night and just hauling all over away and scrapping them, but again, you know, I'm just an
And maybe
outsider.
somebody asleep in there.
But I'm saying I'm an outsider, and I just come here a year ago,
I know.
and I fell in love with this piece of land. You know what I mean? So I can see the old folks here that have been here and, you know, they're their home. And it is beautiful. I mean,
I see, I don't know how you change the mindset, but the spring up on 52. And I don't know who keeps hanging the bag out there, but I keep that place clean. Of course, I do the furnaces and I go by, at the underpass. Over underneath the railroad tracks. When I go by there enough and I get aggravated, then I'll stop and pick the garbage up there. But that's a topic that concerns citizens, to my understanding, and now we do have, what's his name, the solid waste coordinator now. And he's doing a good job. He has cleaned up several dumps.
Well, sadly, there's no glory in prosecuting litter book. And
No.
that's been, because it's a felony to openly burn your garbage in your front yard or anywhere. Yeah, people do it everywhere, and sheriff's deputies drive by and ignore it. Exactly.
But there's no one,
There's no,
there's no-
that's the mentality, then.
but it's just like, I don't know, I have dogs that keep me awake sometimes, barking, and there was a guy that went to the physical court meeting not long ago complaining that he couldn't sleep and there is no ordinance, and they just basically told him that there ain't gonna be an ordinance. You know, so, and I'm not gonna say it starts at the top, but it doesn't do you and I any good to want an ordinance if the people at the top, it has to go through a process, and that's by nomination. If no one, you know, these people are elected